We visited Colonial Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia in the spring of 2016. If you would like to get notices when I post again, be sure to subscribe right here. Just click on that button. First, we'll be going to the Visitor Center where we'll get our tickets and catch a bus over to the historical area where we'll be looking around. This city was founded in 1699 in the Virginia colony. And the part that we'll be mostly looking in is this, which is houses from that area. The capital of Virginia was here from 1699 to 1780, and I'm having trouble with some of the sound and video synchronizing. I hope that's not a problem for you. Richmond down to Williamsburg on the Colonial Parkway. This tunnel we'll be going through actually goes underneath historical Williamsburg so that it doesn't have to interfere with the city itself. We'll start our visit with Colonial Williamsburg at the Visitor Center, where 1 million visitors a year come through. Colonial Williamsburg is made up of 88 structures, 39 of them original from the 17 and 1800s. This was a rundown town until the 1920s when John D. Rockefeller Jr. decided he wanted to restore this to its original glory and use it as a living history center. So everything within Colonial Williamsburg must now dress, talk, or act like the 1700s or be hidden so that the visitors cannot see it. At the Visitor Center, you can pick up your tickets and make reservations for various sites there, get hotels, and then you take a bus into town to avoid all the traffic. We'll start off our visit to Williamsburg today by looking in this area of the city. We'll start with the Governor's Palace, then go to Robert Carter House, the Wheelwright, the Basket Maker, Wythe House, St. George Tucker House, Randolph House and outbuildings, and finally end up at the square. The Governor's Palace was where the Governor of Virginia lived during colonial times. It was built in 1706 but burned in 1781 when it was serving as a hospital after the governor had left, and restored in 1934.
John D. Rockefeller Jr. purchased the city of Williamsburg, because if you're a Rockefeller, you can buy a city. And they decided to restore this to a historic area. They tore down Williamsburg High School. Now, let us say that you arrive here wearing a suit of embroidered wool and carrying a sheaf of documents in your arms. Do you think you might be invited inside? It's much more likely. You'd be instructed to wait here in the entry hall until you can be seen by Mr. Menzies or Captain Foy in the parlor. You are welcome to touch if you like this petticoat. It's made of silk taffeta, a handmade replica of an 18th century gown, made at our milliner and mantua maker shop down at Duke of Gloucester Street. It is not, however, just a room for putting on clothes. She also entertains guests in this room, spends time with her children, and perhaps takes some ease, has some time to herself. Her elder daughters might practice on the pianoforte here. That's an original piece, but the pianoforte itself is a fad. It'll never catch on. A recent Italian invention. It will never replace the harpsichord, which we all know is the true keyboard instrument, right? Of course. She might spend time with her sons as well. Only the best, the brightest, the most well-respected, and the most well-connected persons are invited here. And if you're attending such an evening, you have to be on your your very best of your wealth, having such concentrated colors. In the ballroom, we are surrounded by what's called Prussian blue. Prussian blue doesn't just refer to one single shade, but rather that color is achieved with Prussian blue. In 2016, we have things like Pantone that set very specific shades like Oxblood and Tickle Me Pink and Purple Mountain's Majesty. But that is Prussian blue, which can refer to a wide range of blues, from sort of a sky blue to a gray-green sort of mossy blue. And here we are surrounded by what's called verdure, which is another very fun word to say. It comes from the French verdure, but when we English speakers get a hold of it, it becomes verdure, which is fine. But this is the supper room, a room in which refreshments are laid for those who are attending the ball.
Tells me you're not a guest because you're out here with me during dinner time.
Yes, that means that I'm probably not a guest.
Yeah, you're probably a worker bee like us.
Uh-huh. Do y'all get the sample to make sure it's not poisoned?
We don't need to do that. The Royal Governor brings over his professional men from his stately homes. Last two do that. So he knows what the Governor's looking for.
Mm-hmm. And we have oysters here, right?
No, we don't have any
What's
oysters
this?
on our table. That is sweetbreads of veal, sir.
Oh, okay. And suckling pig.
That is a bunny rabbit.
Oh, bunny rabbit. Oh, right. So, fried squash?
Fried potatoes.
Oh.
Not necessarily, it depends on where you're living. So here in town, during the 1770s, there were 7 wheelwright shops in this area. So you clearly did not need to be doing extra things. There was enough demand for wheelwrighting, wheeled vehicle making, that you wouldn't have to do anything else. But if you lived more rurally, maybe you'd also make you know, furniture or coffins or do repairs. And if you're the only
The original idea for restoring Williamsburg came from Reverend Dr. W.A.R. Goodwin, who was the Burton Parish church pastor and wanted to restore the church and the entire area around it. No, that's the commercial Williamsburg. Colonial Garden. There are many carriages that you can ride in the city, and we'll be riding one tomorrow. Next we come to the home of Peyton Randolph, one of the most outstanding citizens of Williamsburg at the time.
His life, his accomplishments. Well, in 2016, that is not surprising. He is, though his contemporaries called him the father of America, he has been mostly lost to the sort of mainstream historical narrative. But in 1775, you all know who Peyton Randolph is, because he's one of the most important men in Virginia. He's one of the most important men in all of North America. At the age of 23, He was the king's attorney, that is basically the attorney general to the entire colony of Virginia. By 1775, he has served as the Speaker of our House of Burgesses, our lawmakers, and he serves as president of the first 2 Continental Congresses in Philadelphia. A very important, very exceptional figure. Standing in the only covered walkway in Williamsburg, it separates the main house from the work areas and the slave quarters, and we believe it was built for a very simple reason. We believe Peyton Randolph built it for the comfort and convenience of his wife, Betty. So Peyton Randolph's seat of power is out in public. It's in the Capitol. It's in the courthouse. It's even in the taverns and on the streets where he is making orations, engaging in debate, and changing the hearts and minds of his fellow men. But for Betty Randolph, her seat of power is right here. And even with the French in this house, even with most of her valuables cleared away and stored at a nephew's house, you can still see some things in this room that speak to her power, to the power that she wields here. Running errands with her, seeing to all of her needs. And in the morning, Betty Randolph is going to, with her key ring, unlock their spice chest and remove what is a very valuable item in an 18th century household. The spices, your cloves, your cinnamon, your refined white sugar. She's going to measure out precise amounts of those and give them to their enslaved cook, Betty. She'll tell her early in the morning what she wants done, what she wants cooked, and how much of each spice she wants in each separate thing. And once Betty is concluded with that, that'll be around midday, around 2 o'clock, that the main meal of the day is served. And it's called dinner in the 18th century, and this is a meal where the Randolphs might well be entertaining. So we're going to head on into the dining room and take a look at the sort of dining setup that they have here to entertain their guests. Pretty impressive dining setup, right? And this is something that Peyton Randolph is going to be very mindful of when he entertains his guests. He wants his guests to be impressed. There's no point in being wealthy if you can't show it off, since in the 18th century, we believe that the finer sorts of people will be entertaining here, and he'll have exceptional people coming to dine with him. People like George Washington, who is a wealthy planter, a colonel in the Virginia militia, a community leader. People like Thomas Jefferson, who's Peyton's young cousin, a budding intellectual radical and wealthy planter in his own right. People like Peyton's older brother John, who was the first son in their family and is a staunch loyalist to the crown. And around 1774, the conversation at this dinner table is going to be growing heated. They're going to be very concerned about new tensions with great liberties of man and his nature in his natural state. Thomas Jefferson grows thirsty. You might notice there are no glasses on the table, so how is he to get a drink? Well, he'll lift his hand up, and one of the enslaved waiting boys, perhaps George, Eve's son, will place a full glass in his hand, which he'll drink from, lift his hand back up, and the glass will be taken away and washed off should he need it again. So by 1775, the choices facing the colonists have grown ever more high stakes, and Peyton Randolph's relationship with his older brother John, a conservative man who always wished to remain loyal to Great Britain, is destroyed by John's desire to stay loyal to the crown. John will return to England, and he and Peyton will never speak again. This sort of drama plays out in families all across North America. Families will be torn apart by a split loyalty. Coins are valuable because this is a certain weight of silver, and so you can split it up into pieces, and each piece is worth something. So you don't have a dollar coin and a half dollar and a quarter dollar coin. You just split up the coin.
And now it's time for reenactment of the getting ready to go to Yorktown. First we'll go to the Capitol, then over to the jail, then we'll walk along Duke of Gloucester Street, hear the noon cannon, look some more on Duke of Gloucester, and then ride our carriage and head back to the hotel. Here comes our bus now. Let's get on and head to the city. Our first stop will be the old state capitol built in 1705.
The original one that this copies was actually finished in 1705 during the reign of Queen Anne. So that's Queen Anne's coat of arms up there on the cupola, and I'll show you a portrait of her inside. Unfortunately, that building burned in 1747, but they did rebuild right here on the same spot. Second Capitol building was used from 1750. And the second building burned in 1832. This building you're looking at today was rebuilt and opened as a museum in 1934. Don't worry, we don't. The king will appoint 12 Virginia men who are born and raised right here in Virginia. They're going to sit with the governor on that side of the building as what we call the governor's council. They are his advisors. Today you call them cabinet. Same thing. The governor and his council, when they sit on that side of the building, when they're upstairs, they sit as the executive branch of government. They are the ones that administrate the colony, which for us Americans that usually makes sense. But they also sit upstairs as the upper house of our legislature. They work with these men in the lower house to make laws. And they also sit downstairs on the side in the courtroom as the justices of the court, that's the judicial branch, and interpret the laws they help to make upstairs. So those 13 men, the governor and his council, their executive, legislative, and judicial branches, all at the same time. These men are elected. The elected men balance the appointed men. So the two sides of the building work like big giant scales. It's always balanced. They've got to share the power. Like I said, these men are elected. Every county in Virginia is going to elect 2 men from that county to come here to represent their county. And in colonial time, when all these men are seated, they are called the House of Burgesses. The west wall is King George II. Opposite. And his wife, Charlotte. So in 1760, this is the middle of our big capital letter H. It is neutral territory because it's in between the two sides. People's side over there, King's side over here, we haven't got to yet. It's used whenever the two sides have a big disagreement. That's the governor's Oval Office. That goes back through antiquity. That did not begin with the White House. Back in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, whenever you had an oval-shaped building or an oval-shaped room, that denotes great importance. The General Court. This is your high court in the colony of Virginia. It is our one and only felony courtroom in the colony of Virginia. What's that mean? That means if you are a free person in this colony, someone has accused you of a felony crime, something like murder, manslaughter, arson, treason, counterfeiting, piracy, witchcraft, housebreaking, kidnapping, rape, all the really bad crimes. You have to be brought here. I'll say it again. If you are a free person in this colony and somebody's accused you of a felony crime, you must be brought here. That covers 500,000 people. That means we need to have court here 4 times a year. Court session usually lasts 2 or 3 weeks. So if you are brought, that's what jails are for. They are holding cells before trial. It is not, no matter what the sign says down there, what we think of as prison or penitentiary. It's not for punishment, it's just holding cells. It's before trial, not afterwards. We don't believe in penitentiaries yet. Nobody's going to go from this court and get sent away for 10, 20, 30 years. We don't do that yet. The possible punishment here is death by hanging. So we'll hold you down in the jail until it's trial day. When trial day comes, the jailer will take you out of your cell, put you in shackles around your wrists and your ankles, and they'll walk you up the hill to this building. When it's time for your trial in particular, you'll come through that door and walk right up front here and stand up here in front of this thing. This is called the bar. This is the bar of the King's Justice. Sometimes it is the bar of the Queen's Justice. That is Queen Anne. Remember, so that's her coat of arms outside. And notice that you do stand trial. You don't sit trial. Witnesses do not come forward to take the sit. They take the... None of you are called by-sitters. You are by... So how many benches were in the courtroom? None. Bystanders don't sit, they stand. It's very literal. So as you stand at trial, in a typical year for this 500,000 people, 4 court sessions, we see maybe, what, 50, 60 trials per year? That's not too bad for 500,000. About half the people are going to be found not guilty, they go right back home. But about a quarter of them are going to be found guilty. But they're found guilty of a less severe crime. So if it's their first offense, you've never ever been in trouble before, and they find you guilty of a less severe crime, like manslaughter, not murder, you get to do something special. You get to ask the governor and his counsel here, say you guys are upstairs now, down here, you get to ask them for mercy. And that means they get to show mercy, which means they're still going to punish you, it just won't be by death, that's all. So what they'll do instead is right here before you leave, they'll have the jailer come up here to a little brazier full of hot coals from the fire, a little charcoal room. And he'll reach down and pick up one of the branding irons he's got heating up in there. And picks the branding iron with a letter that matches the crime you were convicted of. So if you're guilty of manslaughter, what letter's on here? M for manslaughter. Blasphemy and bigamy are going to be the same letter, B. What if you're guilty of being a thief? What letter? T for thief. Here's the T branding iron. We'll take a nice hot branding iron, we'll take your hand, and right here before you leave, we match them up together. What's it sound like? They brand you in the palm of the hand, right the nice meaty part under your thumb. And it'll burn and scar right into the flesh of your hand. And you'll have that mark on your hand for the rest of your life. Now here's where it gets a little bit strange. The mark is the punishment, not the branding. We're not trying to be mean and cause you pain. I know, yes, it's going to hurt. Is it going to hurt forever? Pain goes away, doesn't it? Does the mark go away? No, it's there for the rest of your life. So why is having that mark on your hand going to be punishment? Everyone will see it. Why is that punishment? What do we call it? You're going to bear shame. You will bear shame every single day until you die. Shame is the punishment.
Next, we'll head on down to the jail, where they would hold prisoners until they could be tried.
And living in one-room houses with dirt floors. How is this better?
It's got wood
It's
floors.
got real floors. It's got 2 rooms. It's got glass in the windows. It's a very nice home. And when you think about the jailer, he is a government-appointed official, the royal governor. Yeah. So how do you find this out here?
And a potty.
Comparatively nice, right? It's got a fireplace, which is why we often use it for a quarantine cell. Think about if you have what we call jail fever. Has anyone ever told you to sweat it out?
Exercise yard. One of the most famous prisoners held here was Blackbeard and some of his pirates.
Two original ones. Another stone to sit on. Food drawer. You should push food through.
There are many carriages throughout the city, and we're going to get to ride on one later this afternoon. But let's just look at a few of them as they go past. At our Carlton's coffee shop, we stopped for some hot chocolate, or we could have had coffee.
I'll have the coffee, or oh no, chocolate. He has the coffee. They're similar, it's just where the handles play the closest difference. So I have.
And then it's time to go hear some of the local musicians. At the silversmith shop, we stop and watch them making a silver tray.
The ideal is sort of the
At
Indian
the milliner
print,
shop,
but
we
that
learn
inspiration
how they make
and
dresses.
whether we can trade with. So the Turkish influence is very strong, the Chinese influence, the Japanese influence, the Indian influence.
How do you actually see that?
Well, we are traveling to
books
what,
or
how are we talking about fashion? Yes, we can get it from a variety of sources. If you have relatives in England or France that are writing to you, telling you what the fashions are, and we do have fashion illustrations. We do have some fashion magazines. They aren't quite as popular as they will be in later decades. Even the garments themselves. If Mrs. Roundup is coming back from England and you see her walking down the street in a really beautiful style of gown, then you can come to your mantua maker shop and say, I want that. I want it in purple. Bam, you can do it. There's a really quick turnaround time.
They're still working on much of the archaeology in the area, and some of it is very old, like this 300-year-old powder magazine that they use for storing gunpowder. Next we walk through the market to see what they might be selling before walking on over and hearing the noon cannon being shot.
We can see it from over here.
Better. Now, what we're going to be doing here is going to be to fire the noon gun. The purpose of which is that if you have a massive army of 30 or 40,000 people and you have to instantaneously communicate with everybody, what's the best way to do it? Fire something really loud. So it's a signal gun of sorts. So the way it's going to work is if you are joining the Continental Army, what you're going to find is that 3 times a day there's going to be a signal gun fired. It'll be at the beginning of your day, the signal to begin your day. At the end of your day, tell you it's time to go to bed, and in the middle of your day. So hence the noon gun. The purpose being is that as you are in the Army, you're going to be training all day, every day. Big surprise there. With this in mind, though, what we're actually firing is going to be a light 3-pounder. Now the Light 3 is designed to be moved very rapidly across the battlefield. So this weapon can fire a cast iron ball that weighs 3 pounds, or more commonly, it's going to be using paste shot. Think of 48 musket balls wrapped around a wooden dowel inside of a linen bag. So what can happen is they're going to be on either side of the wheels. We have hooks on the hubs. So there'll be matroses, men with tow ropes that attach to each side of the wheel, 2 men in the back with hand spikes acting like pry bars to pick this weapon up. And we can move this as a Light 3 across the battlefield almost as fast as the infantry are marching. So this way, what we can do is take this weapon and quickly advance alongside the infantry, angle in with that case shot at the enemy at 200 yards, and use it basically as a giant shotgun to blast massive holes in the enemy formation. So it's an incredibly effective weapon at that. So, because of those today, what we're going to be using it for is just a signal gun, so we're not going to be firing any kind of projectile. What we're going to be firing is 3.6 ounces of gunpowder. Now in combat, this weapon is rated at up to a full pound, but again, for the sake of all of our eardrums, we're just going to use 3.6 pounds.
James Anderson had a tin shop, a blacksmith shop, and a public armory.
The same measures that we use to using the imperial measure, and now they use the metric system. So when you get like a pint of beer in a pub today, it's much larger than that 16 ounces. So that's the
What do you use to actually make the outside of the oven?
It's clay on the outside of the brick.
Raw materials without it come without
Yes, they were mining iron ore here, and every population, the workforce. So they're making finished goods and sending them back here. So as a blacksmith, most of the work is going to be repair work. Yeah.
People throughout the town are dressed in period costumes.
Past the hour of 1 o'clock. The finest good.
And now it's time for the noon parade. The William Pitt Merchandise Store has many different articles that you can buy from that time period. And then it's time to take stock of our situation and look around the courthouse. Costume shop allows you to buy the clothes of that period so you can walk around in style. And now we come to James Getty House and its foundry. The house was built in 1762.
Mrs. Getty entertains her friends for tea. Mr. Getty, of course, is going to be entertaining his business associates, especially those who like
Foundry is separated from other metalworking places in that this pours into molds.
Brass stirrup of William and David Getty, and those two brothers, and these are some newspaper ads from the Virginia Gazette. Watch the color of the metal, it'll begin to sort of frost over to indicate that metal's hard. So I could pour 20 or 30 an hour, but I might spend a couple hours finishing each one of them, filing and polishing. So most of my
filing them down. They came out of the mold, and when they come out of the mold, they'll have these little bits and pieces on there, these ragged pieces.
And then on down the road, it's time to stop and look at how they made shoes.
And we're stitching a new sole in a shoe, and we ran out of thread, so we're making a new thread to finish the job. And then the heel is going to be wooden pegs. So most of the shoe will be sewn, and we'll use wooden pegs to attach the layers of the heel. And that's another good apprentice job too, splitting pegs. A lot of times I recommend trying boys and girls out. So a boy or girl spend a week or two with you making threads, putting the bristles on, making pegs, and that might give you a good idea. This is the training for them to learn. And the pitch and rosin gets everywhere, so that is one reason why you do the men's shoes or ladies' shoes. Men's shoes are made, the uppers are leather, and the pitch and rosin is not going to hurt that. Or a lot of ladies' uppers are fabric, I'd be destroying it, so you have to work cleaner.
Yeah.
So usually you specialize, and boys and girls will learn either men's or women's shoes when we become a shoe maker. And we'll cut the hole, and we'll put the new thread in before sewing. We're going to divide it in half. Halfway through, then each new hole we enter through either side of the stitch. We call it a shoemaker stitch. The saddlers call it a saddle stitch. It's a very common leather stitch.
So you come in from both sides?
You come in from both sides, and since I'm right-handed, I'm going to put the knot on the left side, and then we suck it in. So the trick is we're cutting a hole smaller than the thread, so the leather's going to close around it, and now here's the knot. Pull it tight, it goes right in the middle. So what's going to happen is you are going to end up wearing out all the thread here,
right?
While the thread's going through the side, and the knot will still keep this in place.
The weaver's shop is now up, and we can see how they make cloth for making different clothes.
Absolutely devastate your your soil. So if you have your linen, you're going to grow it as a last-ditch effort before you have to It's pretty pure, so it's taking what used to take.
And now it's time to take our carriage ride. Deborah's favorite part of the trip.
Your horses are Diamond and Jewel. Diamond is on the left, Jewel is there on the right. My name is Bob. I am Coachman Bob, so I'll just be...
Queen Elizabeth and Philip rode on this.
They did. 1957, their first visit to Williamsburg. Walk on. There you go. Good job. What's your name? The King's Church. You're mandated by law. You must belong to the church. Attend church on a regular basis, and you will pay a tax that supports the church. Pretty much the most powerful man in Virginia in the 18th century. As the king's authority, right there is the king's authority in the gate. Lion and heraldry is the symbol of England, the unicorn, the symbol of Scotland. Separated by a market tree. The street flowing right under.
No, I did. They were bouncing around me. This is Deborah's favorite part of the ride. And now we can watch the afternoon drills and parade.